My name's Mike Gorman, and today I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Rode Wireless Mic Go and my all-time favorite lavalier mic, the Tascam DR-10L. I think the most important thing, the one question that everybody wants to know right off the bat, is which of these microphones has better audio quality. So I already have the Tascam DR-10L connected to me, and now I'm just going to position the Wireless Go in about the same spot. And there we go.
This is the first test. I'm going to start with a sample from the Rode mic, and then I'm going to do the Tascam.
Okay, so these microphones are placed pretty equidistantly, so hopefully I'll just be able to jump between the two mics. I'll try to just fill up some time, talk a little bit. Okay, so these microphones are placed pretty equidistantly, so hopefully I'll just be able to jump between the two mics. I'll try to just fill up some time, talk a little bit.
On first listen, I think it actually sounds like the Rode is better. I think a lot of this is due to the fact that there's a more favorable EQ, but when you actually dive in and listen, I feel like you can actually hear that gain from the Rode microphone as opposed to the Tascam. It's just a little more bassy, a little more pure. I feel like you can work with it a little bit better, and with a proper EQ, I think you could get a better sound out of the Tascam. Here's the two microphones back to back one more time.
Okay, so these microphones are placed pretty equidistantly, so hopefully I'll just be able to jump between the two mics. Okay, so these microphones are placed pretty equidistantly, so hopefully I'll just be able to jump between the two mics.
I will say that I'm definitely impressed with the sound quality from the Rode, but at the end of the day, I will give the nod in sound quality to the Tascam.
All right, so the cool thing about this Rode Wireless Mic Go is that the microphone is actually built in, but it does give you the ability to add a lavalier to it as well. So because the only lavaliers I have are from my Tascam DR-10L, I'm going to actually do my second test by disconnecting the lav from the DR-10L. Okay, so now I'm just going to put the lavalier mic in here. Look at that. And let's see. So now the test is similar to the one before. However, I'm using the exact same lav mic. One is going into the Rode Wireless Go, whereas the other one is going into the Tascam DR-10L, and we will see which one has the better audio quality. One is going into the Rode Wireless Go, whereas the other one is going into the Tascam DR-10L, and we will see which one has the better audio quality.
Okay, so this test absolutely blew me away. They sounded the exact same. I even had to go in and double check to make sure that I was actually listening to the two different microphones, but nonetheless, I was. Here they are, back to back to back to back to back. I don't even know what to say.
One is going into the Rode Wireless. 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 One is going into the Rode Wireless.
Okay, so considering both mics sound the exact same with the same lav mics, I will give the nod in this category to the Rode.
Okay, so for my next test, I want to see just how far the Rode mic can go. Obviously, the DR-10L can pretty much go for unlimited, but I want to see how far the Rode can go. So I'm down here at my local football field, and let's see if this thing can go 100 yards.
Okay, so really interesting thing to note here. When I turned my back to the receiver, the audio started to cut in and out. This did not happen when I was running towards the receiver, only when I was running away from the receiver, which leads me to believe that if there's any interference, like walls, humans, whatever, this microphone may not perform.
Now 50, we are at 50 yards is right here. Touchdown right here. This is 100. Here we are, 100 yards. Hopefully it's, if it still transmits, 100 yards, little sound.
So as you could see in here, the range didn't quite make it 100 yards. It starts to kind of cut out, but nonetheless, I think it still did a great job. It still impressed me. I would definitely feel confident that if you're going to be using this in something like a church, as long as there aren't people or walls in between, I think you should be pretty much good to go. On the other hand, the Tascam recorded everything perfectly. Obviously, I knew it was going to record everything perfectly, and this wasn't exactly the most fair test, but nonetheless, the Tascam wins when it comes to range.
The next most important topic is ease of use. Off the bat, I was really impressed with the Wireless Go's setup time. The receiver clips right into the camera's hot shoe mount. Then you just use the provided headphone wire to connect into your camera's mic input and you are good to go. Because the second I turned on the microphone itself, it just paired. like nothing. I didn't have to do anything, which was pretty incredible. So yeah, definitely impressed with the ease of use, especially considering this is my first time using a wireless microphone setup. It's pretty tough for me to comment on the durability of the Wireless Go because I haven't really used it much in the field, but the plastic definitely feels solid. I mean, I will say the DR-10L is built like an absolute tank, but this thing is pretty solid. I mean, it's plastic just like the DR-10L, but the build quality feels high, and I will say it is definitely really, really light. Probably about the same weight as the DR-10L, but as you can see, it's considerably smaller and definitely feels like it'll hold up pretty well. Obviously, the DR-10L has a quicker setup time because unlike with the Rode microphone, you're actually recording the audio directly to the unit. And being able to record audio directly to the unit on its own separate SD card definitely has its advantages, but it also has disadvantages. And where you're definitely going to save some time in the quicker setup process, since you're manually going to have to sync up your audio to your video file in post-production, you're actually going to be adding time in the post-production process, as opposed to the Rode mic, where the audio gets recorded directly onto the video file, so no need to sync up in post, which is definitely a huge plus. In terms of safety features, the DR-10L absolutely dominates. For one, you actually have to screw on the lav mic to the unit, which prevents it from accidentally getting pulled out. Granted, you don't have to use this with a lav mic, but if you were to use it with a lav mic, it's just going to stick right in there and can very easily get pulled out. Tascam also makes it incredibly difficult to accidentally stop a recording by making it so you have to push up on the record button in order to stop the recording. So there's an incredibly low chance of a recording accidentally getting stopped because someone hits the button on accident. And in terms of the audio file itself, the Tascam allows you to record two separate audio files, one at a higher gain level and one at a lower gain level for safety. At the end of the day, the Tascam is super reliable and has not failed me yet, but I will say a lot of this is luck because unfortunately with the Tascam DR-10L, you can't actually monitor your audio. With the Tascam, you basically just press record, put it on the talent, and hope it works. With the Wireless Go, on the other hand, you actually have the ability to monitor your audio live. So if something sounds off or is placed in a bad spot, you'll know immediately and be able to make adjustments on the fly. There's even a button on the receiver which allows you to adjust the gain. So if an environment is too noisy or too quiet, you can make adjustments right there and then without disrupting anything. Unfortunately, there's only 3 gain adjustment settings, high, medium, low, so you can't really get too specific, but nonetheless, it's still a great feature. Next up, we have battery life. The Tascam uses AAA batteries, whereas the Rode, the unit itself needs to be charged. I obviously haven't had the Rode unit for very long, but according to the manual, this thing holds a charge for about 7 hours. And while I normally hate batteries, I do feel like the Tascam has an advantage here because when you're on the fly, it's just a lot easier to find AAA batteries than it would be to charge an entire unit. And if you're shooting for longer than 7 hours in a day, you're gonna need to stop shooting in order to charge your Rode microphone. But with the Tascam, you can just go to the nearest hardware store and grab a AAA battery and you're good to go. And obviously there's a microphone and the actual receiver itself, so that's 2 separate units that need to be charged. So just kind of a hassle and really not conducive to the run and gun style. Also, one thing I noticed about the Rode that I really don't like is that it doesn't have an automatic shut-off feature. So if you are shooting for a long time and you do happen to forget to turn off the microphone, it's gonna stay on and continue to drain that battery. Ultimately, it's really hard for me to compare the 2 different microphones because they really do have their advantages and disadvantages in certain situations. In terms of shooting weddings, I'm still gonna rock the Tascams because of their ease of use and run and gun nature. Plus, since the Tascams don't use a wireless frequency, I won't have to worry about any interference from the DJ's wireless system. On the other hand, I've been shooting a lot of 2-person interviews lately, and the Rode is gonna be perfect for that situation. Since the Tascams record internally, if you try to record 2 different subjects with 2 different lav mics, you get this awful phasing issue that's impossible to avoid. So being able to record a 2-person interview with 2 different wireless mics and get a clean feed is going to be an absolute game changer for me. I also think I'm probably going to be using the Rode system for any YouTube videos I make going forward because it's just easier and saves me that step of having to sync up the audio in post. In conclusion, you really can't go wrong with either setup, but I will say if you only have $200 and you have to choose one, I would ultimately say go with the Tascam. It's just a safer setup. Thanks for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. Also, consider following me on Instagram at Mike, the letter X, Gorman, where I post a ton of behind the scenes. So if you want to see how I do setups like this, hit me up on Instagram. Peace. Maybe asking yourself, why did I choose to light my soundproofing blue as opposed to red like the last time? And the reason why is because that blue that I used is the exact opposite